Hello, welcome to my presentation on gender identity in sports. My name is Alex Fornenberry, and I'm doing this as a project through the University of Mary Hardin Baylor Exercise and Sports Science 6275 or Sports Law. Now, sports and what we love, we enjoy watching our champions battle it out with mighty titans. We love to be witnesses to the underdogs rise and beat the odds. We love to see inspired children chase their dreams and accomplish the impossible. And as an audience, we love to see our heroes rise to the occasion and succeed. Now, challenges the sports world faces. The current change in the sports world is struggling to adapt to what is gender identity. Now, the word struggle was chosen because one gender seems to receive more attention over the other, even though we have accomplished athletes of different genders in different sports. Now, included in this new struggle is the participation of transgender athletes that has been in question in the past decade. Now, as a disclaimer, I have chosen this topic due to personal curiosity on whether women athletes are receiving equal recognition as the male athletes, whether transgender athletes have the right to compete as their preferred gender, and by no means am I criticizing anybody for their beliefs. Please keep that in mind. I am not here to criticize or judge. I am just simply passing along information that I have found. All right, so let us continue. All right, the purpose of this paper is to examine current issues involving gender identity in sports. Whether women athletes were receiving equal recognition as male athletes, or whether transgender athletes have a right to compete as their preferred gender. The topics that we will focus on is spectators, media coverage, coaching, discrimination, and participation of transgender athletes. The general thought and feelings about what advantages transgender athletes have, and if any, and what laws protect the transgender athletes' right to participate in athletic competitions. Spectators. One can determine the popularity of a sport based on how many spectators attend the sporting event and how it is covered by the media. Research has found that a lack of coverage on women's sports has had little to no change in the past decade. Now, to quote Lagret et al., general gender identity and traditional gender role attitudes are shown to be strongly related to boys' interest in watching sports, but not to girls' sports. The media's coverage is when it comes to media and the attention women receive and has not improved for the better in the past decade as well. It was observed that sports networks have balanced the coverage of sports separation by gender in the Olympics to be more equal in the recent decade, but in an observation of 1,500 sports posts, only 52 of them were primarily women. And in them, and over half of their images were of non-athletic related subjects, such as them being wives, girlfriends, models, what have you. And discriminations that women may face. The media has had a stereotype of how women athletes should look like, and women athletes struggle for the recognitions as athletes and not as women. When media covers women athletes, it is focused on the sexual stereotype of the image, which is like I already said, which is who's the girl, who are they the girlfriend of, who are they the wife of, if they are supermodels on the side, that kind of thing. Because there is this image of what a girl should look like and act like, girls with short hair and are playing well, many people have been quick to judge that they were boys and not girls. Uh, the dismissal of women athletic programs is also a form of discrimination, though some people feel like they are in the right to dismiss these programs. Now, reasons for a program's dismissal can be that there is not enough competitions in a division or that there has not been a good turnout in spectators. But Title IX, which we will get back to later, protects each gender's right for equal opportunity in schools, which is also to compete in sporting or athletic events for the school. Now, women leadership roles. Now, most iconic position of leadership positions in sports is coaching. It is believed that most boys are inspired to be a coach as their career choice because of the type of role model the coach was to the players. Uh, is it the same case for female athletes who have a female coach to look up to? Well, the challenges a woman coach would face in her field involve discrimination, work life, lack of role models, and a lack of support around them. In researching the previous question on the previous slide, it was found that in Division III sports of NCAA, only by a slight difference, female athletes who have had female head coaches had a higher efficiency in themselves than female athletes who've had male coaches. However, most of these athletes who had female coaches would not be encouraged enough to coach over the high school level. So they would rather be at high school or below than being a college coach. Now, here we go to transgender athletes. A transgender athlete is an athlete who has changed their gender identity from their birth gender to another gender. So like let's say from male to female or female to male. There are concerns that an athlete transferring from male to female gender would have an unfair advantage due to their physical build. Another concern is that involves transgender athletes is that a male would lie to misuse the policies that are meant to protect transgender athletes and abuse the female athletes under these rules. Now, it is said that transgender females will have superior mass of muscle, density of bones, stature because of how long they had their levels of testosterone before they changed gender. Now, examples of concerns. So there was a mixed martial art fight back in 2015 where a transgender female fighter caused severe injury to her opponent, which included a concussion, fractures, and cuts on her hands. Um, as expected, the female athlete who had suffered these injuries stated that facing her transgender female challenger was much different from any of her female opponents. Now, things that help the transgender athlete participate in sporting events is that there are processes in these athletes must go through to compete involving expensive surgery and an inconvenient amount of time to recover from that surgery and hormone therapy when they should be training for their sporting event. The Washington Interscholastic Athletic Association adopted a policy that permitted transgender athletes who are students to participate in an athletic events in a manner that is consistent with their gender identity, in respect to the gender listed to the student's records. There's also the California Safe Schools Coalition, which demands all school districts, programs, employment, and activities be free from any discrimination focused on gender identity. Now, um, the women and transgenders face similar situations as far as like discrimination and coverage. Both athletes uh, face, so let's say the transgender athletes for only being noticed if they do well in a women's sport, or the women athletes accomplishments or games are only mentioned if it was a world tournament or the Olympics. Now, laws that protect identity. So, Title VII legislation, which protects employees from all forms of discrimination, especially gender. This includes gender identity of an individual regardless of what they are birthed. Now, employers cannot treat an employee any different based on their race, religion, politics, or gender identity. So this gives them a safe place in the workspace. Now, laws that protect genders, the Title IX legislation, which bans schools who receive federal funding from discriminating towards a student's gender. Now, the translation for the Title IX has been an intense topic for the past decade. In 2016, the Office of Civil Rights concluded that transgender students do fall under the protection of this law despite changing their gender different from when they were born as. Now, in my conclusion, we have covered the current gender identity struggle the sports world is facing. We also discussed the different issues that surround gender identity in the sports world. And of course, we've also discussed the laws that are meant to protect people's identities. So, as my presentation, I hope you have taken something away from this. I certainly have. And thank you for your time and have a good day.